You're listening to the Crew Book Club podcast, the show that challenges you to change your mindset through hearing about dope books. Thanks for hanging with the crew to get advice, ask questions, and gain knowledge with me, your host, Sade Hill. What up, crew? What's good? Welcome to another episode of the Crew Book Club podcast. I cannot wait to get into this episode. As always, I'm super ecstatic to do this with you all, okay? As you know, I want to make sure that you're good. Like, when I ask you this, I really do care, and I pray that you all are feeling well. And if you're not feeling well, I pray that after listening to this podcast, you feel a little better. I want to be here to encourage you. I pray for the crew, okay? Like, legit. I don't know y'all. I don't see you guys on a regular basis. Some of you guys I do know personally, but I really do pray for the people that I don't know. I pray for the struggles that I don't know about, because I want us to be better. I want us to do better. I want us to feel better. I want us to genuinely be happy. I want us to be able to be in a space where no matter what's going on in the world, nothing can take your joy away, because it's coming from within and our connection with God. So I pray that for you, okay? So let's get into the who gon' check me, boo. And yes, who is always checking us, crew? God is. And what do we like? We love a good check-in. So today's check is coming from the Devotional Journal, Believe Bigger. Yes. And it actually is coming from day 70. And it's titled Kingdom Seeking. Okay. The scripture comes from Matthew 6:33. It says, "But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you." And in the passage, I'm going to pick out the keynotes in the passage that really touched me. The good work happened in us before it manifests through us. So that's why it's so important. Why I tell you, we have to get what we need from within before it manifests to go out, okay? It starts from being surrendered to the divine building process. Yes, not a moment, not a quick encounter, a process that enables God's promises to take root in us. She says, God isn't trying to get you to do more. God is seeking to get more of himself, his heart, his mind, and his ability in you. A supernatural infilling requires intentional stillness. Imagine this, trying to fill a cup when it's moving all over the place. No, okay? Miracles can't happen if we're too busy to kneel before God and bathe in his presence. Seeking the kingdom by creating time and space for solitude and communion with God is how God shapes us and supplies us for the more he has in store for us. That's why I think it's very important. I think we talked about being intentional with what you do. And I strongly believe being intentional about being in God's presence is the most important thing you can do. I know you have that huge to-do list. We all do. And we try to prioritize most important to least important and all of that. But let me tell you, I can tell when I haven't been in God's presence. When I start getting flustered and sensitive on the smallest things, or I feel a sense of not control, I can tell I haven't been in God's presence, and I haven't been grounded. That's why intentionally this year, I'm trying to make sure every day I'm experiencing God by waking up, even if it's 30 minutes earlier than my child, to read the Bible, pray, and journal to him daily, because I can tell when I haven't done that. Trust me, I feel like that is the most important thing, is spending time with him, so that way he can create that space of solitude to commune with him, so he can shape us and supply us with more. Because it's already in us, honey, okay? It just needs to come out. So that was the Who Gon' Check Me Boo. God is always checking us, and we love a good check because it keeps us in check. Okay, so let's get into some crew love. And I actually don't I don't have one on the podcast review to read, but I have people text me, and when I see them in person at networking events, they love what I'm doing. But I absolutely love that. But I would really love it if you guys put it on the review. I know Apple Podcasts has a review. So right now, while you're listening to me talk, go put a quick review in. It doesn't have to be long, but just something to show me some crew love, and leave me 5 stars. I would absolutely adore and appreciate you for that. And I would really appreciate it, okay? All right. And that is because, you give me crew love. I show you some crew love by giving away and partnering up with a really dope partnership with Audible. Listen, last week I told y'all that the Will book is in the pipeline. And I know he been on everybody's tongue after what happened. Okay? So it's just so funny. I was just talking about reading the book regardless. And I know people are going to read it even more. So that's just funny how all this happened this week. So I'm still recommending getting the book. And I told you one of my first Audible listens is going to be the Will book. And I'm super excited about that because I love Will from an actor and grew up with seeing him on TV and all of his movies. One of my favorite Will Smith movies is Independence Day. So I'll definitely be listening to the book. But I wanted to partner up with Audible so we can enjoy books in different ways. And I let you guys know this last week that Audible offers more than just books. They have podcasts, wellness programs, theatrical performances recorded. They have comedy. They have even Audible originals. So get your free 30 days experience through Audible and the Crew Book Club by visiting audibletrial.com/crewlove. That's www.audibletrial.com/crewlove. Check it out, okay? I can't wait to listen to this book as well. And if you listen to another book that you think is really dope, recommend them to me. Send them my way because I would love to listen to some great Audible books. All right, so let's hop into our third book, guys, and it's coming to an end. We'll be going into our 4th book on the next episode, but this is the last 2 chapters of Woman Evolve. Listen, Sarah Jake Roberts, girl, you killed this book. I mean, I love this book, and it's one of those books I tell you that I will constantly go back and read when I'm having a moment, when my fear is kicking in, or when I feel like I need a little pick-me-up. I would definitely be pulling this book out. Today, we're finishing the book, ending in chapters 10 and 11. Chapter 10, Don't Do It Alone. And in chapter 11, Wild Woman. Okay? So, chapter 10, Don't Do It Alone. The author starts the chapter off with Mary and Eve, how they share a lot of similarities in how the existence threatened the enemy. And the difference was Eve was aware of what she had chosen, but Mary was not quite sure on page 161. The author did not want to end this book without telling us that there will be moments coming that will make us wonder why God chose you to behold his majesty. Listen, on page 162 through 163, it says, when you look back over your life and you see moments when you expected better, but better didn't come, you learn to no longer trust your own heart. When you pursued a plan for which you were passionate, but the plan didn't turn out as you hoped, it trained you not to trust your passion. You can trust God with all your heart. The true question is, can you learn to trust your heart again, even after you've given it to God. Sometimes we talk about trusting God with all our heart, but when you slow the words down and say them intentionally, you'll see that what we're really saying is that we trust God with the eternity of our heart and all of its possesses. When we turn our heart over to God after it's been damaged, wounded, and abused, it's because it needs surgery. It's not because our heart needs to be tucked away in a safe. God brings our heart to a place of healing, perspective, restoration. Then he gives us our heart back and says, "Woman, evolve. You can trust your becoming because you trusted me with your becoming." This is like personal experience. Y'all, there's so many things that I tried that did not come to pass that I really thought was my thing, and I failed. And I was just like, so how do I even trust myself moving forward? Even with doing the podcast, I was like, man, I tried modeling, I tried acting, I tried it this way, I tried it that way, I tried corporate, and you want me to podcast? And I was like, okay. And you want me to do real estate still? And I was just like, okay. And total honest truth moment, real estate isn't a passion, right? It's a skill of my skills. But I also learned that God wanted me to do real estate because he knew I would take care of his people. And I operated off of honesty, integrity, which you need as a realtor. And I love making people's dreams come true, right? And I feel like because I was obedient to putting my life out for other people doing real estate, he brought podcasting into my life. And it was like this genuine love. It's a non-struggle. I have fear creeps in sometimes, but I've overpassed it because I love doing this so much. And it made me think, as long as I'm obedient to what he's asked of me, he will continue to give me the joys of my life. So I thought this was really cool and how she put it on pages 162 through 163. And my experience when I really gave God all of my heart completely changed my life. And it's like I couldn't do life alone. I needed God to be a part of my life. You know, so listen to this on page 164. It says, sometimes the only way to survive after we've had an identity shifting experience is to change the way we show up in the world. Oh, that was so good. So good. Before I changed how I started to show up in the world, I struggled with this very thing the author discussed on page 168. It says, it is possible to believe in others, believe in God, but not believe in yourself. When God begins to work in us and then through us, we can begin to trust who we are in him. I may not be able to trust who I am in fear or who I am in my insecurities, but I can trust who I am in God. When I trusted who I am in God, I could stand up to anything that stood in my way without puffed up ego or pride, but with the knowledge that God was working in me. We'll say, I'm giving it to God, I'm leaving it alone, I'm not going to touch it no more. But do we really be meaning that? I'm going to tell you this. I've said it and really didn't mean it. But when it happened, and you can tell, it's like this shift. And I was just like, oh my God, like I really gave this to God and look how he showed up. So I really like that. And even I could be telling my friend and giving them the best advice, but not even taking it myself. Don't we do that? So I started, whenever I'm having an issue with something, I always say, well, what would I tell my friend? Like, if my friend was saying this to me, what would I be telling her? try that, and it does make a difference. Because then I was just like, if my friend came to me struggling, they wanted to give up, I'm gonna be like, girl, no, don't give up. You talented. The world needs you. So now when I'm struggling with that, I tell myself those same things. Kind of like, let me put what I would put into someone else into myself. I'm gonna talk nice to myself, okay? So definitely try that next time when your mind starts going and wondering. Talk to yourself how you would talk to your best friend and encouraging them, okay? So here's another heavy hitter in chapter 10, Don't Do It Alone, on page 170. It says, for years, through pages 170 and 173, it says, for years, the narrative has been that women don't get along. The reason that narrative that women don't get along can continue to permeate the culture is because our natural inclination to comparison keeps us from authentically celebrating one another. Ooh, hit. Okay, it also says you have got to get in community with other women who see you worthy of celebration, not competition. If you don't have a room like that, then you have to become the celebration in the room. Some of our friendships are only healthy because we're sick. Who can contest to that? I've had my experiences. It also says on page 172, if you haven't come to a place where you can celebrate another woman, you can get in the room with other favorite women and still feel awkward and out of place because you aren't sure you belong. This isn't just about changing your friend circle. This is a challenge to change how your friendships circle. You may be the champion your community needs. You can become the cheerleader in the corner of every woman pursuing her goal and not just the woman you prefer. Listen, it also says this. This is so good. Maybe you aren't able to galvanize your crew toward change, or maybe you don't even have a crew at all. Consider getting plugged into a network like-minded women who carry the same passion to seek the versions of themselves. Make sure you're in an environment greater expectations as the norm, and becoming better is the organic rhythm that leads your community through life. Welcome to the Crew Book Club podcast. If you don't have that community, the crew is here for you. Okay? Listen, sometimes we have to be the champion because it could be nobody in our circle that's like that, but we can be the champions. And that's why I'm really big. Like, I want to curate my friendships to be champions too. And I want them to see me doing it, and it will encourage them to do it as well. So sometimes it just has to start with us. And it's like, let me accept that challenge because I don't want to leave my friends as I grow. Some may have to get left, but I really don't want to do that. But I definitely want to give them the opportunity too, right? So I really like that because I feel like as women, we do struggle. We do have that stigma. Oh, women don't get along, and particularly I run into that being a Black woman. So it's like, well, I don't know, all of us together, and you see it on TV shows, you see it, you see it everywhere. But instead of complaining about it, how about you be the person that makes the change? You become the champion in your circle that engage and motivate everybody. So I really like that she didn't leave that standing, and I like also how she put it on page 175. It says, I guarantee you will never lose when celebrating another woman's success. You'll have some encounters that are not meant to be lifelong friendships. So we want so badly to hang on to friendships for a lifetime that may not be everybody's story. But we can make sure the time we've been given leaves a beautiful impression on someone's life forever. What does the great Maya Angelou say? I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And y'all, sometimes what's best for you in a friendship is to walk away. To walk away. And it can't be for a moment. We talked about that on the last episode. Getting out of the boat for a minute to cultivate your space so you can realize what you need to do and become. And then getting back in the boat So then you can be the champion for your crew, because they may need to see you do it before they can do it. It can be like a little awkward when you're around somebody who like, yep, I'm doing this and I'm doing that and I'm encouraging you. It's like, oh wait, should I really be receiving this? I don't know how to, and it may come out in jealousy and other things, but sometimes we got to show other women how to do it and be that example to them. So I really, really, really love that. Okay, that was chapter 10, Don't Do It Alone. Let's get in chapter 11, Wild Woman, page 178. As we seek to take up our space in our worlds, we must never forget the value of representation. To see glimpses of yourself in the scripture and watch God's full faithfulness to that person is to understand how God can connect with you now. It is equally important that you recognize you are someone's representation. I'm telling you this because I think it's important you realize you are someone else's mirror. The footprints that lead you to the moment are similar to where someone is standing right now. They may never find their way if you don't become the guide. Man, this made me think of the episode 3, What If the World Needs You? We need you. Your friend needs you. It could be your kid. Them seeing you do something can encourage them to do something. Someone is waiting for you. That business that you need to start, someone is waiting for you to start it so you can employ them. Like, you just never know what you could be standing in the middle of. And I really like how she was like, you're someone else's mirror. That was really dope. I appreciate her addressing this as well when it comes to the wilderness, and not always in a literal way like the Bible describes, out in the sea or in a cave. On page 183, it says this: while some of us may not be headed into an actual wilderness, we've been chosen to live in conditions not always hospitable to faith, purpose, creativity, innovation, vulnerability, and authenticity. For some, living in a space of vulnerability feels like being in the wilderness. For others, starting a business or going back to school feels like wilderness. You may choose to stop advocating for everyone else and finally start to look at your own soul, and that feels wow. Whatever your wilderness is, I want you to label it. Because if you label it and you can identify it, it'll help. Okay? It says you need the challenge of being out of your comfort zone so you can break up the predictability of your life. Instead of bracing ourselves and waiting for the next wave of change, we are going to vow to become the change. It also says here, the wilderness may be uncultivated, uninhabited, and inhospitable to someone else, but when it's the place God has prepared for you, then it doesn't matter who else wasn't able to stay there. All that matters is that God kept the place on reserve for you. Don't allow the failures of other people to dictate your success. You may be doing something wild and crazy in someone else's perspective, but that's only because they don't understand that God has destined you to be a wild woman. Born to be wild. Yes, sis. Nobody understands what God told you to do in your assignment. That's where spending time with Him is so important, so you can be confident in what He told you. Because God is not a God of confusion. So when you're feeling confused and not knowing what to do, and if someone can come in and change your whole perspective and idea of what you should be doing, but you know God told you to do it, you need to go back to God, spend time with Him, and separate yourself so you can feel strongly about it. And let me tell you something. You know when you feel strongly about it. And you know when God, because no matter what anybody say, you gonna pursue it and you gonna do it. Okay? I had a friend one time, she did a group message asking her about her company name and her idea of what it should be and things. And we had all these ideas for her. And, you know, she listened, she took them and breathed, because you do want to get, you know, you want to get some feedback. But let me tell you what she did. Like, we didn't hear anything back. She didn't send us anything. And then one day we just saw the name and she started promoting it. And she was just like, this is what it is. And I'm not changing. And da-da-da-da. She found her confidence in what she wanted. And that's where you have to get to. feedback is good. And we know the difference we talked about it last episode, I think, correction and criticism. But in this instance, it's like she was so confident in what she came up with, she didn't need nobody else's opinion. You know what I'm saying? So she trusted herself. She had confidence in herself. And I'm sure as well, because I know her personally, in her relationship with God, and she knew what God told her to do, and she stuck with that. And what anybody said didn't matter, because that's what God told her to do. All right? So I really appreciated that. I'm going to leave you with this last note in chapter 11 on page 191 and 192. My purpose is to make sure every woman is awakened to the seed God has placed inside of her, because the woman is usually the last to know that she's the soil. What you allow to take up space in your heart matters. Fear, insecurity, rejection, and abandonment may be living in you, but it cannot stay. Once you know it's in you, you've got to decide that it cannot stay. Girl, you got a world to change. You got you to become, and a tomorrow waiting on you to get this show on the road. Pack up all your second guessing and oxymorons and trust that God will handle them as you go. Woo! This book, y'all, I need y'all to get it. It is just so amazing. I cannot tell you how encouraged I am by reading this book. So definitely check it out. And I just feel like the healing starts within. And this is the type of book that can catapult you to start thinking different and trusting in God in that way. In addition to not doing it alone and you partnering up with God to be in your life, I think also having what's available here in person is important too. You know, I can't even say how therapy has helped me. In a sense, like, yeah, I have God, but I also need therapy too. Okay? And it's all part of the process. And you know, in